Yes, YouTube. I hope you're all doing well. So today I'm back with another video and we're going to look at my main theory that has helped me level up my music over the past year, which is called a warm-up theory. So let's hop inside Ableton and work through these mindsets and techniques. Okay, so you're probably thinking the warm-up theory, what's this all about? Making music has nothing to do with warming up or anything related to the gym or fitness. But from my experience, a lot of people, when I'm doing the one-to-one lessons, are coming in and often doing the hardest thing first within production. So what I refer to is the warm-up theory. Now, if we think about fitness, which is very relatable for most people, you don't just go in and do the hardest thing first. You don't just go in and lift 200 kilograms off the floor or squat your max rep. You warm up to that gradually. Get your body prepared for it, not only physically, but obviously mentally. And the same thing can be applied to music. We can warm ourselves up mentally and creatively. So by doing this, we're actually going to put ourselves in a better position to make music. So what are the main principles of the warm-up theory? Really, it is building up the workload and the intensity of the workload within the productions and trying to have some kind of motivation and inspiration before coming into the project. Again, referring it back to the gym or some kind of fitness output, if you go into that session motivated and inspired, then you're probably going to have a slightly better session. Same thing applies with music production. Now for me, the easiest way to get a bit of inspiration is to actually listen to some other music. So we've got two different forms of things that I typically do before coming in to making some music. One, I will just listen to some music on Spotify. Maybe I'll check out my latest artist, new music. So for example, we've got Wheats's new track. Would play that, but I'll probably get copyrighted. So, you can just go and listen to it in your own time. Or probably my favorite kind of inspiration, and the one that really just hits me differently, is listening to music outside of my typical genre. Especially nowadays, I'm working with minimal deep tech house music every single day, all day long. It can get a bit tiresome and I can just hear the same things over and over again. So for me, listening to some garage, some drum and bass, maybe even some hip hop, can really just spark something that listening to house music wouldn't. I think maybe because I'm not able to fully understand how that producer has done it, because it's outside of my kind of niche genre. So we've got a brilliant example here. I was listening to this Chase and Status Boiler Room set the other day. If you don't like drum and bass, then skip forward, because this is absolutely horrible. But the way the vocal kind of like drops in and he blends it with the synth, I was like, I could flip this and it just hits. And that's the magic of inspiration and creativity, right? You can't really explain it. You just feel it.
Liquor, cigarettes, wait.
Yo!
I don't know why, but like I said, that's some beauty of inspiration. That just kind of clicked. Maybe the tonality of the vocal. It's very minimal drum and bass as well. So it kind of, I guess, shoehorns into minimal house music at the same time. So that's kind of like point number one of the warm-up theory. Coming in inspired and a bit kind of like pumped up, right? Sorry to interrupt this video, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm now offering specialized one-to-one tuition online via Zoom. You can book in via my website, where you can also have a look at my other services, including mastering, mixdown and masters combined at a discounted rate, sample packs and templates. If you have any questions, just drop me an email within the forum or drop me a message on Instagram as well. I look forward to working with you and helping level up your music. Okay, and then the second thing to do with the warm-up theory is template. Now, I talked about this in my previous video, the top 5 things that are going to improve you as a producer. So that one's down below if you want to check that one out. So I'm not going to go into detail about what my template is and stuff like that. In fact, you can always buy my template from my website, and I will be releasing a new template later this month. But in general, what you want to think about is a worksman's going to do a better job if he can find the right tools for the job. Same applies with production. If you set yourself up for a good session, whether that's finding some inspiration and having everything laid out neatly and organised so you know where everything is, you're going to benefit from that in the long run too. So enough pre-prep of the warm-up theory. Now let's just get stuck right into it. So the first thing I'll always do following this warm-up principle is doing the easy task first. Like I said, I want to get in the zone, start thinking a bit more creatively, and really my main goal is to kind of enter flow state. If you don't know what flow state is, best way of explaining it is imagine those sessions or moments in life where time kind of just dissolves and you just lose track of everything and you're just so in the moment, and before you know it, hours feel like minutes, and you kind of just forget about everything around the outside world or what's going on in your life. That's what flow state is, and I feel like that's why a lot of people really enjoy music production. Once you learn the basics of it, it's quite easy to get into that flow state and just zone out and be creative. So we're starting with something easy. We'll start with a kick. Super easy to do, right? You just got to find a good kick sample. Throwing it back to one of the other points I just previously mentioned, if you've got a template set up with a bunch of kicks already in there, that should speed up your workflow and make this step even easier. So I'm going to go for something like that. That's quite nice actually, didn't mean to do that, but it has quite a nice little bit of top end to the kick. So next stage of my warm-up theory is to do the textures. Textures should be very, very easy and very, very simple to do, but if done correctly, they actually kickstart a bit of creativity. So first thing we're going to do is just find a few texture loops. So let's go something like this. That's cool. I quite like that one as well. No right or wrong for how many textures to put in, just whatever takes your fancy. So now what we can start doing is thinking a bit more creatively. And we're going to start looking at introducing some plugins, getting our brain firing, thinking about effects and how to modulate and stuff like that. But because it's so early on in the track, and really we're working on such an unimportant part of the track, the pressure isn't there for us to make sure this is correct, right? So if I put an effect on here and it doesn't sound very good, not the end of the world. If I did that on the bass line or the synth line or the melody, it's going to be really important because that's the main part of the track. So it works very similarly again to a warm-up in the gym. If you have a bit of incorrect form within your main movement in the warm-up set, it's not the end of the world. You've taken note of it and you're paying attention to that when you progress forward. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe a sort of tremulator or something on there, kind of stuttering one of these texture loops up could be pretty cool. It's kind of cool. Then maybe I could affect all of these via a send and return effect. Maybe I could look at using the beat repeat. Then I can play around with Effectrix and the list goes on, right? I'm just playing around with the plugins, and because I'm playing around with such an unimportant part of a track that's going to be sat further back in the mix, it's not really going to matter what I do here, right? But it's getting my brain firing and thinking about all the right things. Okay, so you can just go on and on and on doing this, right? Just playing around with plugins, getting in the zone as well. By doing this, I'm starting to switch off, starting to enter that flow state that I was talking about. And now we can go on to the next part, which is just finding some loops. Again, don't put too much pressure on yourself to go in and build some really elaborate percussion groove. You know, at the moment, we've got a complete blank canvas. So by putting some loops in first, we're going to be able to just start narrowing down that canvas and then designing from there. Just finding a loop, starting to play around with it a bit more creatively. I know I keep on repeating myself, but just getting that brain firing in a more creative manner. So I've just found 3 loops. You can see what I was doing, just playing around with effects, trying to think a bit more creatively, and just really focusing on one part at a time and getting into the zone. It's very, very easy with music production to get ahead of yourself. Start thinking about the important things. But really, especially in the initial stages of building a track out, when you want to get into that flow state and you just want to become focused and be able to zone in, then just focusing on one bit at a time can really help. Just zone in on playing around with that loop, play around with some effects, start wiring your brain a bit more creatively. And before you know it, you'll be entering that flow state. You would have found the inspiration if you'd done what I said at the start. You would be efficient because you've got a template. And by just working through a few bits very simply and not putting too much pressure on yourself and thinking about the larger picture, you've already started to get in the zone, think more creatively, and that will set you up for a really good session. So there we go. That is my warm-up theory. This is something I have been doing in all my music for at least the past 12 months, if not longer, and I was just doing it unconsciously, and something I've always been teaching my clients in the one-to-one lessons that I have. Just being able to enter that flow state is really going to help your creativity, and from a few simple steps by finding some inspiration and not putting too much pressure on yourself to create the harder parts of the track first, really just sets you up to focus in and be the best producer you possibly can be. Thank you all very much for watching this far. It's always appreciated, and I will see you in the next video.